Rain fell in sheets across the highway, turning the world into a blur of gray and silver. A lone pickup truck, coughing smoke and dragging a trailer filled with broken furniture, pulled onto the side of the road. Inside sat a man whose eyes looked older than his years. Cole Mercer, a former Marine, now a single father, bankrupt and out of options. His 5-year-old daughter, Avery, slept in the back seat under a blanket that was too thin for the cold. His hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as thunder rolled across the horizon. Cole had been driving for 2 days straight, looking for any place to stop, any hope left in a life that seemed to have fallen apart all at once. His construction business had gone under after an accident destroyed his main equipment. The bank took his home, and his wife had walked out months earlier, leaving nothing behind but a note that said, "I can't live this life anymore." Now, all he had was Avery, and the crushing guilt that he couldn't even keep a roof over her head. When the truck sputtered and died completely, Cole let out a shaky breath. The gas tank was empty. He climbed out into the rain, lifted the hood, and stared at the engine like a man trying to reason with fate. There was no town for miles. The only sound was the rain drumming on metal and the distant rumble of motorcycles approaching from the curve in the road. 20 motorcycles, engines roaring like thunder, came into view through the curtain of rain. They rode in tight formation, black and silver machines gleaming even through the downpour. At the front was a tall woman with auburn hair braided under her helmet, wearing a black leather jacket with a patch that read Iron Hearts MC. She slowed as she saw the stranded truck and signaled for the others to stop. Cole stood in the rain, soaked, clutching Avery's blanket around her tiny sleeping body. The leader of the bikers lifted her visor, revealing sharp green eyes that softened when they met his. "You look like you need help," she said, her voice calm but commanding. He hesitated, pride choking his words. We need shelter, please." And that was the moment everything began to change. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping others when they've lost everything, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal so more people can feel stories like this one. The woman introduced herself as Rhea Lawson, CEO of Iron Hearts Logistics, a transportation empire that began as a small biker club for women who had escaped abuse, homelessness, or broken homes. The 20 women behind her weren't just bikers, they were survivors. Each had a story of her own: pain, resilience, redemption. Rhea offered Cole and Avery a ride to their base camp outside the small town of Ashgrove, where the group was hosting a charity rebuild project for a local community center. Cole wanted to refuse. Marines didn't ask for charity, but one look at his daughter, her lips trembling even in sleep, broke whatever pride he had left. He nodded silently. The group formed a circle around them, one biker loading Avery gently into the sidecar of a trike, another tying a tarp over the trailer so their few belongings wouldn't be soaked. They rode through the storm in formation, headlights cutting through the rain, until they reached a wide piece of land surrounded by pine trees, part warehouse, part workshop, part home. It wasn't fancy, but it felt alive, filled with laughter, tools, and the hum of engines. Inside, they handed Cole a towel, a cup of hot coffee, and a warm blanket for Avery. The smell of stew drifted from the kitchen, where women in leather vests were chopping vegetables and talking about fundraising drives and school supply donations. Cole felt like he had stepped into another world, one where strength and kindness coexisted. Over the next few days, Rhea learned more about him. She discovered he had run a veteran-owned construction firm that collapsed after a chain of bad luck and dishonest contractors. She saw in him what she saw in her own reflection years ago, a fighter, broken but unbowed. So she offered him a job rebuilding the community center alongside her crew. At first, Cole thought she was joking. "You don't even know me," he said quietly. "I don't need to," Rhea replied. "I know what it's like to fall apart and pray someone sees you before you disappear completely." The days that followed transformed Cole. For the first time in months, he woke to the sound of laughter instead of silence. He worked alongside the women, former nurses, single mothers, veterans, survivors of every kind, who taught him that strength wasn't about how much pain you could carry alone, but how much love you could rebuild after it. He found himself watching Rhea more than he should. She carried herself like someone who had seen storms and decided to ride straight through them. Rumor had it that she'd been left at the altar years ago and used the heartbreak to build her empire from scratch. Whatever her past was, She led with both power and compassion, and it stirred something in Cole he thought was long dead. Weeks passed, and the community center began to rise from the ground. Cole's skills shone, his precision, his leadership, his quiet discipline. Rhea noticed. She often stood beside him, arms crossed, teasing lightly. "You sure you're not secretly building us a fortress, Marin?" He'd chuckle. "Just want to make sure it lasts." It wasn't just walls they were rebuilding. It was his sense of purpose. Avery thrived too. She ran through the open field with other kids, laughing again, her tiny hands smudged with paint from helping the women decorate banners for the charity ride. Every night, Cole tucked her in with a heart that felt a little less heavy. But fate wasn't done testing him yet. One morning, a bank official showed up at the site, handing Cole a letter. It was a final notice. His old business debt had been sold to a collections firm. They planned to seize what little he owned, including his truck and tools. The debt wasn't even his fault. One of his former partners had forged documents in his name. Cole's shoulders slumped. He felt like the ground was being pulled from beneath him again. That night he sat outside the workshop, staring into the fire pit, the letter burning slowly in his hand. Rhea found him there, silent and defeated. He told her everything, the betrayal, the guilt, the fear of losing everything again. Rhea didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, "You fought for this country, Cole. You built something honest. You deserve better than being punished for someone else's mistakes." She stood up, determination flashing in her eyes. "Let me handle this." The next day, Rhea arrived at the bank in her CEO suit, black, sharp, commanding, her helmet under her arm. She walked in like a storm in heels. The same woman who once led a biker gang now led multi-million-dollar logistics contracts, and she used every ounce of that power to confront the debt collectors. Within an hour, she had bought out Cole's entire debt portfolio through her company's financial wing. When she returned, she handed him the document stamped P8INFUL. Cole couldn't speak. His throat tightened. "Why would you do that?" Rhea's voice softened. "Because someone once did it for me. And because Avery deserves to see her father free." For the first time in years, tears slipped down his face. He didn't try to hide them. He just pulled her into an embrace that said what words couldn't. That gratitude could heal even the deepest scars. The following weekend, the rebuilt community center opened. The townspeople gathered, the bikers stood proud, and Avery, wearing a tiny leather vest that said Ironheart Jr., helped cut the ribbon. Cole stood beside Rhea as the crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. It wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of what broken people could create when they came together instead of falling apart. Later, as the sun dipped behind the pines, Rhea and Cole watched the children playing on the new playground. "So," she said, with a faint smile, "what's next for you, Marin?" He looked at her, eyes warm. "I'm not sure. But whatever it is, I'm done running." She smiled back. "Good, because I was hoping you'd help us build the next one. We've got 3 more centers to start across the state." He chuckled. "You offering me a job or recruiting me into your biker army?" "Maybe both," she said, laughing. And for the first time since the war, since the loss, since the loneliness, Cole Mercer felt like he was home. Not in a building or a paycheck, but in a family that understood the language of survival and kindness. The kind of people who stopped for strangers in the rain and didn't ask for anything in return. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal so more people can believe again in second chances and the power of compassion. Before you scroll away, take a moment to comment below. Kindness still exists. Let's flood this world with proof that even in the darkest storms, there are still people who stop their bikes, hold out their hands, and say, "We need shelter, please."